Finally gotcha. Oh, no, it's just this summer's been so crazy, that's just how I wake up anymore. Anyway, it's time to review. Well, if you're intending to upload it, you might want to think about putting on pants at some point. Ooh, hello, World Wide Web. I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with no need for pants. And welcome back to...
The Summer of Freddy vs. Jason!
And the review of the day, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Which is, again, not the final nightmare. Obviously, at this point, we've got a reimagining in Wes Craven's New Nightmare and a remake as well, but Freddy vs. Jason itself seems to follow this particular movie and not either of those. Maybe. It's hard to tell with New Line Cinema anymore. But the point is, this was touted as the last Nightmare on Elm Street movie, bringing the epic tale of Freddy Krueger to a close. By disregarding all the characters and events in previously established works, and just throwing a bunch of special effects in the audience's face. To be fair, they did originally plan to bring a few characters back, but for one reason or another, they didn't go with that, and instead, we just got this, a story completely disconnected from the rest of the series as a means to wrap things up. Freddy's Dead follows an unknown teenager who we call John Doe, suffering from amnesia and winding up in another one of those child-focused nuthouses. Faced with the mystery of where he came from and the strange tales he tells, they bring him to Springwood to answer everything once and for all. By getting everyone killed, but never mind that. Let's take a look at Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, and see if they went out with a bang! Or just phoned it in so hard that nobody in their right mind would be asking for another Nightmare on Elm Street movie after this. Whip it up with a Nietzsche quote to establish that this is an intellectual film, right before a Freddy quote throws that out the window, and then the movie suddenly transforms into War Games from 1983. Freddy fucking killed the entire child population of Springwood. How did he manage to escape Amanda Krueger's grasp? Never explained in the slightest or even brought up. He just did something that sounds a hell of a lot better as a movie in a paragraph. This also establishes there's one survivor, meaning Freddy did not in fact wipe out the entire population of children and teenagers, but whatevs. The plot can be explained by the random little girl.
He's going to make you help him, because you're the last.
So, like Freddy's Revenge, Freddy is all-powerful, but still needs this kid's help because, well, he's gotta be plot relevant. Therefore, the airplane suddenly suffers a catastrophic failure, causing him to fall to his death. But it was all just a dream! A dream he's still having, as it's not normal for houses to be flying through the sky on the wings of tornadoes.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul, too!
Right, Alice in the Mirror shit was too subtle, I guess. Now we're just gonna be screaming at the audience, hey! We're referencing Wizard of Oz! Hey, you remember Wizard of Oz? Cause we're referencing that! The house lands right the fuck back on Elm Street, and our John Doe, played by Sean Grabelat, tumbles down a hill. Either that or someone dropped the camera and they hurried up to figure out some way they could use the footage anyway. But the point is, after being tormented and toyed with by Krueger, he eventually just throws the guy out of the dream world into the new setting, where he cannot follow.
Now be a good little doggy and go fetch.
Might have been slightly more effective at it had you not cracked his skull on a fucking rock as soon as you threw him back there. That's a funny thing though. He entered the dream world while awake, and as soon as he's thrown back in the real world, he's asleep. It's a funny thing, that. Not for long, though, as he wakes up and completely forgets Freddy's orders as he forgets who he is or where he comes from on top of it, and hobbles around aimlessly. The movie then jumps over to the local teen asylum to introduce the rest of the important characters, such as the psychiatric social worker assistant lead something woman, Maggie Burroughs, played by Lisa Zane, and the gamer/druggie Spencer, played by Breckin Meyer. Spencer here seems normal enough, except for his daddy issues.
All he wants me to do now is grow up to be him, an exact copy. Frankly, I don't feel like playing football and date-raping co-eds.
Huh. Yeah, how dare my kid not grow up to be the rapist I know he truly can be? How the fuck is it Spencer's the one that wound up in the asylum? Maybe it has something to do with him MacGyvering up shit out of the anarchist's cookbook, but never mind, it's time to move on to introducing the lady with violent tendencies, Tracy, played by Leslie Dean. And then there's Carlos, who isn't here because he's a problem so much as his parents were, as he was evidently beaten so badly, he's deaf without his hearing aid. They have their differences, but still pull together for the important things.
I gave the van driver our cash. As long as we do it before dawn, we're home free.
All right, that means we're gonna be living large in Cali before the week is out.
Homeless, jobless, hungry, and jonesing for every fix under the sun, but hey, silicone titties. Moving on, we see another doctor at this facility is Doc, played by Yaphet Kotto. You know, Parker from Alien. While I geek out over that, he can go over the new backstory, shoehorning in some concrete explanation for how Freddy Krueger can come into being.
These are ancient dream demons. They roam the dreams of the living till they find the most evil, twisted human imaginable. Then they give them the power to cross the line and turn our nightmares into reality.
So yeah, the whole child murdering thing from Krueger was evil, but it's not fear or children's souls that power him up. I mean, they help a little bit, but it's the tentaskulls that were behind it all along. Nevertheless, Maggie tries to find out more about their John Doe, forgetting how amnesia works, as all he does is say he thinks no matter what he needs to stay awake, and the only other clue is an old news clipping. This goes nowhere, until Maggie starts dreaming.
Over here. Come on. Come to Daddy.
Bestowing this mystery with, yet again, clues as subtle as being skull-fucked by a centaur. But she's not the only one having vivid dreams. Seems that John Doe has a dream too. A dream that doesn't add anything to the story. There's another version of him in a padded room saying he's his memories, establishing he has amnesia. We already know. But he tells Maggie about these dreams, and when they realize they saw the same girl in both their dreams, Doc professes that perhaps their dreams are tied to his dreams, and the answer to the question of who he is might be tied to the dreams.
Why can't anybody talk about anything but dreams around here? I'm so sick of hearing about this bullshit.
Why do I have a feeling that that's the exact phrase that went on at New Line Cinema when they decided that they were going to make the last goddamn Nightmare on Elm Street movie? They figured the best thing to do is check out Springwood, where the news article comes from. Despite not wanting to go back, Maggie still drags Mr. Doe along for the ride, taking along the hospital's surprisingly vandalized van. This ride is very boring, so John starts dozing off and having nightmares right then.
Great. Funny meeting you here.
And it's the same van the rest of the gang were trying to escape in. It's just instead of actually escaping when they had the chance, they just hid in the back. And somehow weren't noticed. And here we are. You know, I'm honestly trying really hard not to slap my forehead, because it's, you know, I'm trying to recover from this shit. In the 5 seconds they've been driving, though, somehow they've gone so far that Maggie figures it's best to just let them tag along for the rest of the trip. With that, they reach Springwood, and the weirdness of a county fair devoid of children.
Oh, what beautiful, adorable children! Would you like to come and live with us?
It's been so long since we've had children in the house.
I'm sure she's crazy, but fuck that, that's Roseanne! Run! As the fair has not one fucking clue for them, surprise surprise, Maggie and John decide to check elsewhere, and the rest of the guys take the van to just get the fuck to California. This plan is made more difficult by the fact that they're so lost in Springwood they're going in circles.
Do you have to do that? You're such a high-o, you know that? I don't play that shit. I need all the senses I got.
Put that fucking thing out.
Damn, these fuckers are not gonna like it if they ever do get to California. While Maggie and John appreciate the sidewalk chalk, which has to have been made by one of the town's elderly residents, the three blind mice continue going in circles until Carlos checks the map, which never stops needing to be unfolded!
Carlos! I asked you for the map.
What? Yeah, well, the map says we're fucked.
Okay, I actually liked that scene. It was funny and honestly felt like something that would be a situation you'd encounter in a nightmare. So while they're changing drivers, Maggie and John go down to the high school, which is still running despite the lack of students. Very fortunately for them, the lesson for today just so happens to be the plot of this movie.
This is where they took away its child.
What child?
Taken away, put in a town orphanage.
Freddy had a kid.
It would appear that Freddy procreated. It's no surprise as he's the ultimate bad boy, but then Child Protective Services took his kid away from him! Who could have possibly seen that coming? And yeah, their quest has morphed from find out who John Doe is to find out who Freddy's child is, so they rush out. Then we shift back over to the California-bound clusterfuck, still stuck in Springwood, deciding they should pick one of the many uninhabited homes to spend the night in. On Elm Street. It's not like any of these guys knew what Nancy's old house looked like anyway. It's kind of an unnecessary deception when you think about it. Unsurprisingly, spending the night here was a horrible idea, as Carlos is the first to drift asleep and drift into the world of nightmares. Brought to you by traumatizing childhood memories. Seems his ailment was caused by his mother's overly zealous Q-tip discipline.
I'm sorry!
I'm not.
Well, you know, when you take into account that a full cranial impalement should have killed the guy, and Carlos ain't doing too bad after that. But he lost his hearing aid, so now he's fumbling around in the dream world completely deaf, with Krueger toying with him. But it always gets me when movies and TV shows try and do a deaf scene, and they can never resist throwing in a bunch of sounds anyway. Guys, it's not really how deaf works. Krueger throws this on its head, though, tossing a hearing aid down to Carlos that clamps down on his head, and is, in fact, a super hearing aid, now making every sound in the place explosively loud. A pin drop sounds like a dive bomber, a mass pin drop sounds like fireworks in a thunderstorm, and this...
No, please! No!
Well, honestly, it's not really any different. It's a good thing. It seems to be enhanced for Carlos, though, as his head blows the fuck up! In the house, though, he simply disappears, which means it's very hard for Tracy to find him. All on her own, of course, because Spencer's stoned and watching the broken TV.
Spencer, get out, man!
Carlos, man. We were just looking for you.
Yeah, hold on. Spencer's a pothead. Number one, marijuana is not hallucinogenic, this is common knowledge. Not so common knowledge is the fact that it also suppresses REM sleep. Potheads don't really dream very much, unless they stop smoking, in which case they have a REM relapse and the most vivid dreams of their life and possibly very horrid nightmares. Either angle could have made for a very interesting subplot in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. But instead we get it where pot is acid that makes you tired. Great. Enough badly researched drug references. It's time for Maggie and John to make it to the old orphanage. Again, somehow still in business thanks to the Elm Street dream money. Confidentiality dictates they cannot know which child was Freddy's offspring, but a little art may hold the key.
K. Krueger could mean anything from Kevin to Kyle.
All it really means is there was a child here by that name.
No. It's me.
Sure, it could be. I mean, you have to ignore pretty much everything the movie established about how you wound up where you were, what you were told, what the fuck the little girl was saying the entire goddamn time, but sure, whatever, just go with that. Upon leaving, they luck out when the van rolls up. That's because Tracy can't find Carlos and drove to them for help, somehow knowing they were at the orphanage. With Spencer alone, we get a cameo appearance by Johnny Depp, giving the old "This is your brain on drugs" PSA.
Yeah! What are you on? Looks like a frying pan and some eggs to me.
And an egg, Freddy. You only had one of them. It's really not your best line here. I'd have been personally much more impressed had you just taken the skillet and made some scrambled eggs there with your glove. With that, Freddy teleports Spencer into TV land, to the tune of Inagata de Vida. Then the movie remembers outside of being a druggie, he was also a gamer, therefore two-dimensional. Thus he's teleported into a game which Freddy plays on what looks like an NES with an Atari 2600 controller and graphics out of a Philips CDI.
Dad?
Be like me. Be like me. Be like me.
Father knows best.
And yet it still looks like a lot more fun than the 8th gen consoles. The rest of the guys get home, and Spencer's in the dream world, so they can't find him. So Freddy throws his ass back into the real world to allow the scene to progress. He's still in the dream, though, overtly affecting him in reality.
Spencer, Jesus!
It's Freddy.
We've got to get him out!
I'll go into his dream.
Whoa, so you got this dream power? You know, when did we establish this? In order for him to get to sleep fast enough, though, he needs to be knocked out, so he pisses Tracy off until she knocks him out of existence! Which was more complicated than it had to be.
told you I knew an easier way. Concentration, meditation, that's what Doc always says.
What the fuck was the point of the dream powers? Kristen's ability to get other people into her dreams was a big fucking deal, and later that was kind of the whole thing that tied all the plots together with Alice. Now it's just a general thing that teenagers everywhere can do? What? So they find Freddy and unplug his controller. Job done.
Get out of here now, Tracy! Now!
Hey! You forgot the power glove!
Well, if you ask me, Spencer's chances of survival have just dramatically increased. Except it's already been established that in movies, the power glove actually works, sending digital Spencer into an army of dads, and real Spencer down a flight of stairs, ending up in hell. That's one more soul and one more opportunity for Freddy to gloat. Not that Tracy's gonna stand for this.
Shut the fuck up, man!
I was wondering how long it was going to take for someone to try that. Before anything else can come of this, though, Maggie wakes Tracy up, but can't wake up John Doe. Therefore, they just throw him in the back of the van while he keeps dreaming, having nightmare after nightmare until even he gets tired of this shit.
Nothing is gonna make me get off this bed. Damn it!
Hell, at this point in the story, Freddy has more than enough experience with this shit to get you to do whatever the fuck he wants. As such, he's forced to leap out of the window, free-falling to his death. But it's okay, his t-shirt can turn into an emergency parachute. One with Kruger inside it, so not really that great an option. John knows Kruger won't kill him, though, because he's his son. At which point Kruger laughs in his face and points out that he had a daughter, while cutting away at his parachute straps Tweety Bird style so he can continue falling to his death. Wile E. Coyote called, he wants his act back. Point is, he lands on the points and dies. But before he goes, he must reveal the truth.
It's not a boy. It's
a gender-fluid trans Asian whose preferred pronoun is Zer. Not gonna have to explain this to the cops, though, because John just up and fucking disappears. Then Freddy jumps into Maggie's body, really not making the clues any less obvious. It doesn't go anywhere anyway, because the real mystery is when she returns, nobody else even remembers the other kids. Somehow Doc is unaffected, but he has his own theory as to why nobody remembers.
He didn't just kill Carlos and the others. He erased them.
So is this why the plot of the previous movies doesn't make a lick of difference? Did Freddy erase that too? We've only got 30 minutes of movie left, though, so Maggie finally realizes, hey, she was adopted! With that in mind, she gets high on Valium and conks out to fill out more backstory.
I won't tell.
She was, in fact, Freddy's daughter. And really should have at least realized that she was adopted. I mean, I know, repressed memories and everything, but still, I remember shits I took at that age. Seems that Kruger's wife found out about the whole child murder thing he had been doing as a side hobby. As a result, Freddy killed her. After that, more events unfolded, leading to the backstory of the original film.
They took you away from me, but I made them pay. I took all their children.
Freddy, you can't say you killed their kids because they took your daughter, when they took your daughter because of all the kids you've been killing! But now that Kruger's connected to Maggie, or rather, Catherine Kruger, he can wreak havoc outside of the confines of Springwood. Considering he really should have had a connection with her this whole time due to the bloodline, that still makes this whole spiel really overly complicated, but never mind that. We see Tracy's family problem is that she had one of those molesting fathers that really don't need all that much time spent explaining. But it does tell us exactly why she's in the asylum. She killed his ass! And evidently got convicted instead of a book deal. As this is a nightmare, her father is Freddy. But don't worry about her kicking the bucket. Quick thinking and a gas range wake her up fast, though a tad toasty. Doc is also working hard to find out what the Kruger creature is capable of, and invites him into a dream for some examination. Well then! Seems he found Kruger's weakness. Nah, of course a beating, no matter how severe, isn't enough to take out Freddy. He even goes over the history of attempts on his life.
First, they tried burning me.
No, the first movie they tried disbelief. Or do you mean the backstory? Because, even then the first thing they tried was prosecution.
Then, they tried burying me.
No. Then would come disbelief and the power of love. You're skipping over a lot of shit here, Freddy.
They even tried holy water.
That was part of the burial. Before that, your deadass was stuck in the trunk of a car.
But I just keep on ticking.
What about the mirror, having your mother absorb you? You had enough fingers to cover this. Point is, Kruger is unstoppable, but Doc has set up this situation with an alarm clock and learns that he is able to pull things from the dream world into the real world. Just like Nancy from the first movie, so if that was a dream power, it's also one everyone has. He doesn't plan to go back there, but he wires Maggie up into the machine with instructions to grab onto Freddy and pull him out when the time is right.
Now he's gonna try to use your eyes to fool you. You'll use these.
Get the hell out of here.
You wanna live?
3D glasses? Why the hell is he pulling out 3D glasses? Is the climax in 3D? This goes into 3D. I really wasn't expecting that. I didn't remember after all these years that it did that. I mean, the movie's practically never sold as 3D. Having only 12 or 13 minutes of your movie actually be 3D will do that to you. Also, some fucking how, Maggie has ended up in Kruger's mind. This allows her to walk through his memories and see the tragic tale of Freddy Krueger. He was a normal kid who everyone at school teased just because he hammered the hamster to death. Also, he had an abusive stepfather, because that's what you need in pure evil, sympathy. We also see the night he was burned alive.
We know what you want.
I want it all!
Of course you do.
Then open up.
And you shall be
Forever!
Okay, I gotta ask, if that's how it actually went down, how the fuck is he actually burnt? The Tentaskulls granted him power while he was looking fine. Is it canon that the Freddy makeup is actually makeup? It then goes over again how her mom found out Freddy killed kids, so he killed her, and then they took Maggie away, so he killed kids. Cart before the horse plotline. Anyway, she does get a grip and execute the plan. And maybe check behind the couch. We all know how this works. We saw it in the first movie.
Maybe the trip killed him.
No. Because I'm still seeing things the way I did in my dream.
Oh, good to know the climax is still in 3D. Though it's still pretty obvious when you think about it.
Check out this knife.
Hey, put that away.
That's too small.
Guess so.
I was really hoping that this was over and done with. There's really not too much else to say about the climax. Freddy shows up in Robert Englund form once more to try and make the case for him being a sympathetic villain, before turning back into Bernward Kruger for the final battle, which isn't that exciting. Maggie only has a few points where she looks like she's in trouble. Other than that, it's just watching Kruger get the shit kicked out of him, along with various 3D shots, until Maggie finally puts on the glove and tries it out. Which, as poetic as it might be, is not how Kruger goes out. Remember those pipe bombs from earlier that Spencer made? Yeah, totally plot relevant, not a throwaway line. See?
Let's get out of here, come on!
Kids.
Okay, so the Tentaskulls are unscathed. Doesn't that mean they're just gonna go find the next most evil man in the world and make him a new nightmare killer? And that really doesn't solve the problem now, does it? They got any plans to deal with those?
Freddy's dead.
Of course not. Of course not. Anyway, that was Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare. And it's got some memorable lines and some nice shots on occasion, but it's kind of shit. Obviously, the first glaring problem I have with this movie is the fact that it just about completely ignores every other film in the series. Finales feel satisfying when they tie up loose ends, but none of the previous ones really were. They just threw a whole bunch of other shit on the table and made a resolution for that. A lot of it really could have been done better, too, in my opinion. Giving a deeper backstory to Kruger wasn't a terrible idea, and I really liked seeing the various different gloves on his workshop, but instead of seeing maybe how a madman refines his techniques for murder, we get his family life and tragic upbringing humanizing him. He's a slasher villain. He's supposed to be evil. The less human, the better. Also, there's the fact that things just went straight cartoony when it came to the kills. Some of the dreams worked well in terms of feeling like actual nightmares, but then you've got fucking Warner Brothers situations going on. Freddy's snark was great because it contrasted with the serious nature of the situations. When everything's goofy, it's not horror. It's a cartoon with death. Overall, the movie left me feeling shocked and disappointed. There are some good lines in here and entertaining moments, but the overall picture isn't very high quality, and seeing it as part of the larger series just makes things worse, leaving Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare to come in at 2 kicks to the balls out of 5. It's not horrid. I mean, I've seen horrid, and Freddy's Dead is certainly better than that. It's just also not exactly something that I'm ever gonna feel too enthused to ever watch again. Thank you all for watching. I've been Dr. Shado, and remember, if an entire town's population of children and teenagers are murdered, maybe think about putting that shit on the news, because fucking nobody in the world knew about that shit happening in Springwood.
Nothing is gonna make me get off this bed. Damn it!